This video is made for adult collectors because the thing's the size of a freaking adult. Titans are something I don't usually go for because they cost so much and the amount of space they take up, but mostly space. The way I set up my shelves doesn't really allow for a Titan to be on display, so when METROPLEX got announced, I was really excited, but I kind of didn't get one as soon as it dropped because like, where the hell am I gonna put it? Well, I threw that all out the window and just went to get one, and Jesus dude, this thing is killer. Like seriously, the articulation alone makes it worth the GameStop Platinum membership price. The reason I bring that up is because it's like $300 Canadian retail. That's a lot of money. Currently at GameStop, if you have an Edge Platinum, it's like $260, not sponsored, which I think is a much better price, but it's still expensive. So is that expense something you should really spend? METROPLEX is my favorite of all the Titans they have put out. He looks great, he feels great, he poses great, his transformation, actually, that kind of sucks in the sense of his joints have to be like really sturdy to hold him up, but that makes it so damn loud. If you live with anyone else, you will annoy them. I speak from experience. I absolutely adore how good he looks just standing there with the weapon mounted on the back. It just feels so much more dynamic than any Titan. This is one of the few modern Titans that I've looked at that I feel doesn't need stickers, because the original show model was based off the original toy, and that old toy looks pretty similar to how he looks here, so I think it looks fine. The light piping is friggin' incredible. It's so luminous and catches light in the forehead too, which is just awesome. He's also covered in 5mm ports, not as many as I would like, but he has a lot. And I have a theory about the minicons actually. Evan, the designer at Hasbro, said at San Diego Comic-Con that minicons may come at some point, and METROPLEX had a minicon drill bit. So we could see them get made, but there's no specific minicon pegs on this guy. The standard since Siege started as being 5mm pegs and ports all over the toy, and if they started producing toys that had specialized minicon ports and pegs on them, they wouldn't be compatible with the current 5mm standard. So if they do minicons, they could just use the standard 5mm like peg and port over the old Armada one that had a hollow thing in the middle to allow the minicons to activate a gimmick, because there's no gimmicks, right? And that'll also allow minicons to be weaponizer compatible. Plus, if you do want to put old minicons on him, the back of the guns can hold them because they actually have minicon ports. But you can weaponize the hell out of him, and damn, I really want Drillbit to be a weaponizer. I feel like that would just be really cool. He just kind of suits that to me. His axe is massive, like it's bigger than him. It's huge and probably took a ton of the money on this guy to not include a minicon. But the one thing that peeves me about it is the lack of a cyber key slot. You sculpted one in on Override, but not this? I find that weird. It just makes no sense to me. You could have easily just put a hole in there for the cyber key to slot in. He kind of struggles to hold it too when he's just standing there. Getting it into his hands sucks to do, and when he holds it, he becomes a bit out of balance in certain ways. It just leads me to mounting it on his back more often, but I prefer how that looks. This does have a 3mm thing on the front that fits a 3mm clip mostly. So you can mount old 2010 3mm clip weapons to him. That's neat. This scales a lot better with Galaxy Upgrade Prime than the original toy of that did with the original Cybertron METROPLEX. And I like that. I really need to get that new hotshot from Siege. Cybertron fans are eating good here. Now Armada fans are getting some love with Starscream. All we need are some Energon toys. This thing's poses are so fucking good. Like, I haven't done this in a while. I'm gonna show you some poses and oh boy, it's great. So doing the articulation segment of this guy is going to be a bit difficult, just like it was with Black Zarak, except this time I'm actually speaking here because this is nuts. Like this is nuts. You got head, I'm going to be over here, sorry. You got head, rotates full 360. It can also look up and down, but yeah, it's got a double joint at the neck. So I'll just slide it forward so he can look down like that if you want him to. I love that. That's not even used for the transformation. It's just there, and he looks up. He's got an opening mouth that I don't really like where it's located, like where the hinge is located. I find it looks a bit weird. Now the shoulders. Shoulders are... there's a softbox in my way. I don't know how I'm going to do this. Okay. Hi. Shoulders. You can rotate. Okay, this is one of my problems, is there are certain ratchet joints that are too tight and certain ones that are a little too loose. So it makes rotating certain things a bit annoying. So when you're, like his neck comes untapped. When you're rotating the shoulders, probably hold it. Full 360. And T-pose out, which is fine. But because of transformation, you get even more shoulder range. And then, if you want to be more creative, you can untab this. Ah, feckin' hell. Ah, you fuck, come on. Ah, there we go. You can untab this, bring the shoulder down a little bit. Doesn't look terrible. And get a backwards butterfly. Like, bruh. Let's just... Oh! Ratcheted bicep swivel. You got an elbow joint that is way too stiff for my liking. Ah. I know it's so that his arm doesn't fall down when he's holding this, but his ankles aren't the strongest. Oh! Gauntlet rotation, unnecessary. Wrist rotation, thumb and finger. Kind of wish the thumb could go out, but then, you know, stability problems. Now, the torso. As you saw, he has a crunch. Forward and back. So that's just, you know, nice. And it's ratcheted, so of course, awesome. You got waist rotation, also ratcheted. Now the way they did the hip skirts is really interesting. So there's this like little tiny section right here that sort of like juts out a little bit. So when you move the leg forward, it stops right there, right? But instead of having a hip skirt that folds out, because that would have looked a little bit ugly, let's just fix that there. Watch this. Whole thing shifts up to allow for a full range at the leg. That is a really, really cool way of solving that issue. I think that's awesome. You got ratcheted thigh swivel. Okay. Knee joint. Which I will say his legs are a little too long here, so it makes getting him into like any sort of kneeling pose or whatever pretty much impossible. Unless you do the whole work mode thing with the legs. Oh. I'm a little disappointed these aren't as clicky as the original ones. It was so satisfying moving the original ones. You can use that as a point of articulation if you want. Now the feet. The feet are where I was probably the most surprised. So you got forward and back. Just like that. You have your tilt, which is awesome. You have heel. The heel can move. The toe can bend down, right? And then ankle swivel. Sure, I prefer the feet in this configuration right here, but you can rotate them all the way around if you want to have the digger at the front, and then you can use that as a toe bend. Like, bruh. This thing is just, it's nuts. It's awesome. I love how poseable it is. Too bad he's like really hard to move around because he's not really inviting to pose, but the sheer amount of stuff he can do is awesome, and I apologize for being in your left ear most of this segment. He has a work mode. The original toy had that too. Getting him there is a bit more involved than the original, and it's a lot of fun, but a bit stiff. A lot of the joints are a bit annoying to get into place because of how strong and loud they are, and it does cause you to sometimes untab things you're not supposed to untab. Work mode is so funny and stupid, yet great. I love it. It definitely shrinks him down to become more palatable of a size, but it's still big. He becomes more thick with like 4 C's. He gets a new battle mast helmet-like head, and it looks pretty nice, but not as nice as the normal head in my opinion, but you can always just switch it around if you want to. I love the replacement hand things. That kind of opens up the potential for them to make more attachments, or third-party companies to make attachments to stick onto his hands to give him more tools. It's also the same connector that his shovel uses in alt mode, so someone could create like literally anything to plug onto there. Make him a tank if you want to, I don't know. That's really all work mode does though. Articulation is pretty much the same with the big guy, so the alt mode then. Transforming is still stiff, but a lot more satisfying going into excavation mode. I like how it sticks to the original transformation while also adding a couple of neat twists. However, I wish there was more than just a new middle connector and the arms going the other way. I wish they did a little bit more. It's a lot easier too to get him from work mode to this than the other mode to this, so I recommend going robot to work, work to alt. Just easier. This thing is massive. Like, it's very big and long, and that's definitely not what she said. You can adorn it with core classes and micromasters, and hell, even minicons, because they're like the same size as micromasters, and there's little slots for them to stand in all over the place. Hell, it is a friggin' seat, leading me to believe that it was originally designed with a minicon in mind, because micromasters and core class toys fit in that slot. He also has airlock ramps for some reason. They're really high up and kind of unattainable unless you have like 1,000 airwaves, but at least he can connect to other stuff, even though they aren't using this standard consistently on a lot of their other figures. I don't understand it. The massive arm can rotate side to side about 1 click. Kind of wish it could do more, but I mean, the handle gets in the way. But you get 2 up and down like joints at the ratchets on the arm itself, and then the claw bucket can open and close, and it's big enough to hold micromasters in it, so it can like eat micromasters. It's a very impressive vehicle, and it's a very impressive figure. Oh, and for those who are wondering, this is based off a real life vehicle, loosely based. I know a lot of people were like, oh, it's bad because it's not G1. Bro, you got something like that already. Now it's our turn to get a massive Metroplex, and we got one. Yeah, buy this. I mean, I wouldn't pay full retail because 300 Canadian is a fucking lot of money, but to spend like 260 maybe, I'd say that feels a little bit worth it. It still feels like a little too much for me personally because it's a toy and I always feel a bit guilty spending a lot of money on one singular toy. But if you can get it on deep discount like on Amazon US, totally worth the pickup. It's big, it's dumb, it's fun, it's articulated up the ass, it's just great. But that's my look at Legacy Cybertron Titan Metroplex. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.